Hello and welcome to the next episode of Harold's Escape. In the previous episode you saw me putting together a bed. Building a bed. The reason I needed to get that finished was because this past little while has been really quite busy. We've had a fair few visitors coming and going over Christmas and everything. But fortunately, I did manage to get the bed finished in time, and it was given the stamp of approval by our resident ministers of domestic affairs. Who also have some rather strange tendencies. Our old friends Jeff and Ashley came to visit us. It was really fantastic to see them, and our first sort of taste of having people come and stay with us in our house. We took it, Jeff and Ash, through to Bewley, which is in the New Forest. It's just over the river from us. It's quite hard to walk like this, actually. There's Bewley, the palace house. There's the remains of Beauliu Abbey. But most importantly, there's the Bewley National Motor Museum, which was put together by the Lord Montague. The Motor Museum is an absolutely amazing place. I was completely blown away. I didn't really know what to expect, but was really impressed by the whole thing. The exhibits there, all of the cars, and there's hundreds of them, and all of the cars are, I think about 80% of them are in running condition, and they do, the London to Brighton race every year. I'm just absolutely staggered. The older the cars, the bigger they are. And some of the old Rolls Royces and Bentleys and that sort of thing that they've got parked there are just, I'm quite surprised they didn't need their own postcode. They are enormous. The variety as well is just absolutely staggering. They've got everything from, old coaches and that sort of thing, right up to modern day Formula One cars. This is one of the old V10 turbocharged Giants, and if you look very closely behind the cockpit, this was the first car that Ayrton Senna ever drove in Formula One. And of course, the most important car here, the Morris Minor, because I'm a Morris Minor. Traitor. This is one of the original GT40s, so called because it was 40 inches high. And it was built to beat those Porsches at the Le Mans. And this one It's a Ferrari owned by a chap called Nick Mason. Oh, he was in that band. What's it called? Pink Floyd.
Chitty chitty bang bang.
Only in Britain would you go to a motor museum with a monorail. Monorail. A fiberglass monorail.
Yeah, no hanging out.
For me, the absolute highlight of the place was Donald Campbell's Bluebird, which broke the land speed record in Australia in 1964. And I didn't know it was at Bewley at all. So I literally walked around the corner into a room and there it was. It was a car that it got up to over 700 kilometers an hour, and that is a world record for a wheel-driven car that is still held today. No other cars come even close to that. Big surprise.
Amanda was now the very choice.
That's the Bluebird.
But the Brits took all the records.
Once Jeff and Ashley had left us, Paddy and Sue, Bridget's parents, arrived. There's an area in the New Forest called Acres Down, which is an area that I've completely fallen in love with, and I thought it would be nice to take them up there to go and have a look at it. Unfortunately, what I hadn't banked on is that when I first saw it, it was glorious in the summer. When we went a little while ago, it was probably the coldest day of the year so far, the middle of winter, very, very windy and miserable. So I don't think that they were met with quite the same sense of awe that I was when I first went to that little corner of the world.
And it just smells so good. And I think it's just...
Are we recreating the Somme today?
Little bit.
A little bit.
Don't get up on our account.
Some of them are unmistakably round. Would they be pregnant? This one here? No, I think they're just...
No.
What's the key station for?
11 Might just be winter, you know, they pick up weight. A bit of extra, that's what our cats have done.
We also went up to London to go and have a look around there. The main point of the trip was to go and see the ballet, the Nutcracker, at the Coliseum Theatre, which is near Trafalgar Square. Basingstoke Station. All the snow.
What's the round doing? No, to the pound. Dollar means nothing to me.
Trafalgar Square. Bloody cold. It's about 1 degree. Oh, the fountains are still flowing, so it's not quite freezing yet, but it's... It's great, it's brilliant. afterwards we took a walk up Regent Street to go and see the Christmas lights that were still up. That was quite a treat. How are you doing? Is it cold?
A little bit.
How cold is it?
Kind of cold. Not too bad.
Not too bad. The next day we took a walk up through Covent Garden and went up to a shop that Paddy and Sue know about called Fortnum and Mason's, which it's basically Sainsbury's but for people who have titles. So, you know, if you've got Earl in front of your name, that's where you know, pick up the bread and milk and cat food, you know. Just a standard bottle of Plonk. Created in 1874, Louis XIII. Jeez. A mere £5,500 for a bottle.
No, the only price refused
Once we were back home from London, we took them out to go and see another thing that I've visited before but was very keen to go back to, which was the historic dockyard in Portsmouth. This is where Nelson's flagship, the Victory, is now kept. There's Nelson's little boat. Obviously we got to see it, but we didn't really have time to go inside. The highlight of the trip was to go and see the Mary Rose, which was an old Tudor warship. It was sunk in 1545 in the Battle of the Solent. Just before it sunk, it had been refitted and rearmed and regunned and everything. And it was fitted with a brand new bit of technology, which was to cover all of the upper decks with netting, kind of like a cargo net, to prevent boarders from other ships climbing on board and killing everyone. The downside of that was the way the ship was sunk. It basically capsized in a stiff breeze, and the netting then prevented anyone on board getting off. So sadly about 530 odd men lost their lives because they couldn't get off the ship. It sunk down to the bottom of the Solent and embedded itself in the mud, and obviously over time more and more mud built up, and everything that was exposed in the water above the mud rotted away and disappeared. But as that happened, all of the artifacts and things on the ship fell down and were preserved in the original part of the hull that was buried. So when the ship was raised in 1982, there were over 26,000 artifacts that were brought up. The museum gives an absolutely unprecedented view of what life was like on a Tudor warship, but also of life in the Navy during the Tudor times. I must also apologize for the videos that I managed to get. Unfortunately, the ship itself is kept in a very, very sensitively controlled environment, and it has to be kept in the dark, basically. So while it's incredible to see everything, you can't really get good video of it. Similarly with all of the artifacts that are preserved there, it's everything from carpenter's tools. There was a backgammon set. They found the skeleton of the ship's dog, musical instruments, and human remains as well. Just an incredible array. It was all found and preserved and is now housed in the museum there. And it's a really, really incredible day out. That's it from this episode. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers, take care. Bloody tourists.